And we are live. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Hack Smarter Twitch channel. My name is Tyler. I like to hang out with you for, I don't know, maybe an hour. We're going to work through some CloudGoat scenarios, but welcome to all of you watching me, whether you're live right here on Twitch or watching after the fact on YouTube. I say this every time, but I mean it. It is an honor to have you hanging out with me. Usually I am on here like late at night, but had some time this morning that I wanted to jump in and do a surprise stream during the day. You may look around and say, well, it looks like it's night where you're at, and that's because I'm a real hacker, and real hackers work in the dark. Okay, glancing over at the chat. Got chat pulled up on one side, making sure I have everything rocking. Okay, fantastic. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and we will run through. Looks like I made my webcam disappear. Let me see if I can make myself show up. Magic. Am I going to show up? Is it going to work? Hey, there we go. And my Hack Smarter overlay. What did I do to that? There we go. Now I have everything pulled up as it should be. Hopefully you guys can all see it. CloudGoat is right here. I'm not going to run through what CloudGoat is because I have a video going through this, and actually a quick plug for this. I am doing a free workshop tomorrow night at 8 p.m. CST, Central Time, over in the Rhino Security Labs Discord. We're actually going to use Zoom webinars for this. Initially, when I set up this workshop, I thought I would have, like 10 people sign up and be very informal in Zoom. Last I checked, we have 70 people signed up for this workshop. So we are going to be using the Zoom webinar platform, and I will be walking everyone through how to set up CloudGoat from scratch, how to install the required dependencies, how to get your AWS free tier account set up, and how to launch your first scenario. So just know if any of this looks confusing right now, join me in the workshop tomorrow, and I will help you set it up. But long story short, CloudGoat is Rhino Security Labs vulnerable by design AWS deployment tool, completely free for you to use. And most, if not all, the scenarios work in a free tier AWS account. So let me show you guys real quickly how this works. We're going to open up our terminal, and I'll go to my AWS pen testing folder and then CloudGoat. And let me see what scenario we're going to do. I wanted to do the web app one because it looked fun. Let's see. There we go. RCE web app. It's rated as medium or hard. And so the way we're going to launch this is with this command right here. And what it will do right now, because I have my AWS account configured, it's going to spawn up all the resources that I need in my AWS environment. And then we can hack stuff, but in our own environment. Now, I will say this when I do the workshop, but if you do spin up CloudGoat, make sure you use like an empty AWS account because you are deploying vulnerable AWS instances. Now, there is a whitelisting that goes in your IP, so only your IP should be able to access it, but I wouldn't, fully rely on that. So don't spin this up like in your company's like production AWS environment unless you want a new job. Then I guess you can spin it up in that environment. While that spins up, I'm just going to get OneNote pulled up. I'm going to go back to sharing just my face for a second while I pull this up. Just need to switch over to the right notebook so I can take notes as I work my way through here. And we got that pulled up. Okay, perfect. And actually what I will have to do is until I get the creds pulled in, I can't share with you guys my terminal window. We'll just go through this scenario while that loads. So let's read about what we are going to be doing. So you can see all the resources that we're spawning. So we have a database that looks like a virtual machine, a load balancer, and an S3 bucket. Amazon likes to use really weird terms for all their stuff. I mean, the load balancer makes sense. EC2s are literally just VMs. I don't know why they have to use some super creative name. And S3 buckets are kind of like an FTP server, honestly, is what it is. So we have two scenarios. In our scenario start, we have two IAM users, which are just users, right? Nothing confusing about that. But we have Laura and McDuck, or Lara. Laura? Yeah, I think Laura and McDuck. Here is our goal. We need to find a secret stored in the RDS database. And the summary, starting as the IAM user Laura. So there's two ways it looks like. Starting as the IAM user Laura, the attacker explores a load balancer, an S3 bucket for clues to vulnerabilities, leading to an RCE exploit on a vulnerable web app, which exposes confidential files, and culminates in access to the scenario's goal, a highly secured RDS database instance. All right, sweet. Alternatively, the attacker may start as the IAM user McDuck and enumerate S3 buckets, eventually leading to SSH keys, which grant direct access to the EC2 server and the database beyond. All right, which one should we do first? In our exploration route here, we have McDuck starting first. Cool. We'll just start with McDuck, and then maybe once we complete as McDuck, we'll do another one completing it as Allura. And we're just going to go off this exploitation route here as our walkthrough. We're not going to look at the detailed walkthrough unless we get stuck, or I should say, when we get stuck, we'll look at the detailed walkthrough. I'm going to get ChatGPT pulled up. We're going to have ChatGPT help us with this, just to show you guys how to incorporate ChatGPT into your workflow. Hey, robot friend. I always forget the syntax for different AWS commands, so my robot friend is my best helper when it comes to that. I'm going to go back to just sharing my face real quick to see if the creds have been loaded in. Nope, it is still creating the scenario. I think probably because it has so many resources making, that is why the scenario is being created. So in the meantime, there's a few things that we can look up. So I don't want to assume all of us know kind of the terminology that's here. So let's spend some time. We have this elastic load balancer. I believe is what the ELB stands for. And let's just ask ChatGPT some questions about the resources we're working with so we understand better what is going on. Can you explain to me what an AWS elastic load balancer is? Sure, I'd be happy to explain what it is. An elastic load balancer is a managed load balancing service provided by AWS that automatically distributes incoming traffic across multiple targets, such as Amazon EC2 instances, containers, IP addresses, and Lambda functions. The primary purpose of an ELB is to improve the availability and scalability of applications running on AWS. By distributing traffic across multiple targets, an ELB helps to ensure that traffic is spread evenly and efficiently, which can help prevent overload and increase the overall availability of the application. There are three types of ELBs available in AWS. We have an application load balancer. This type is best suited for balancing HTTP and HTTPS traffic. It can route traffic based on content of the request, such as URL, HTTP headers, and host name. We have a network load balancer. This type of ELB is best suited for balancing TCP, UDP, and TLS traffic. It is designed to handle millions of requests per second while maintaining ultra-low latency. And then classic load balancer. This type of ELB provides basic load balancing across multiple EC2 instances, but is being phased out in favor of the new ALB and NLB. Overall, an ELB is a useful tool for improving the performance and scalability of applications running AWS, and it can be easily integrated with other AWS services such as auto-scaling Amazon ECS. So that is an Amazon load balancer. EC2, I already told you guys that is a virtual machine. And S3, we'll work with S3 first. S3, how I picture them is like FTP is really what it is in my mind, because if an S3 bucket has like public write and read, or if you can list files in it, kind of like an FTP server, you can abuse that to get sensitive stuff. Or if you can write to it, you can actually upload files and you can compromise an entire web server in that way. An RDS is a database. Explain to us an RDS database. And remember, our goal is to find a secret stored in the RDS database, so it'd be good for us to know what it is. So what is an RDS database? Amazon Relational Database Service is a managed database service provided by Amazon Web Services. It allows you to easily create, configure, and operate a relational database in the cloud without the need to provision or manage any underlying infrastructure. RDS supports several popular relational databases, including MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, and Amazon Aurora, which is a custom-built database engine specifically designed for the cloud. And of course, they have this weird name that doesn't sound like a database at all because it's Amazon. With RDS, you can choose a database engine that best fits your application's needs, and you can scale your database up or down as needed without disrupting your application. Some of the key features: automatic backup, scalability, security monitoring, multi-AZ deployment. Overall, okay, sounds good. Looking over the chat, Hazura Patty said, if I may, it is important if you use a load balancer, including ELB, that you are logging X forwarded for, aka XFF headers inserted by the load balancer. Otherwise, you may not know the actual source address of the clients using your service. This is security relevant when you're doing incident responses. I hope making comments like this is okay. No, dude, that's super helpful. Really appreciate you sharing that. And I wonder if we go that route, if that's how we're going to abuse it, is abusing that and maybe changing it to local host or something to see if we can hit it. So we have two paths to exploit this. Like I said before, we'll try both paths. I don't know if I have enough time right now to go through both paths, but let's start with the McDuck IAM profile. And the first thing we can do is list S3 buckets. I'm going to switch over to my screen just because I'm going to check one more time. Okay, so it has created my credentials for both Laura and McDuck. So you guys just have to look at my face while I set these up. I'm going to save these into my AWS credential file, and I have a test one set up, so I'll actually show you what that looks like after I do it. So for now, you guys just have to take my word for it that that's what I'm doing. Credentials. Should have some background music while I do this part. Hey, what is up, Dalton? So if you guys are just joining, you won't have to stare at my face for too long. I'm just putting in the creds here so everything's good to go, and so that we can access each one of these profiles. So it'll just take me a minute while I get everything saved in here properly. You set up a profile for Laura or Lara or whatever her name is. Drop her access key in and her secret key. Grab that. And McDuck, it looks like. So let me make a profile quick for McDuck. And the only reason I'm not sharing my screen is, although there's IP whitelisting on, I think it only applies to like the public resources. So like the EC2 stuff, I don't think it applies to these accounts. So technically, you guys could try to hack my Sandbox AWS account that has nothing in it. I don't think it would do anything for you, but that's why I am not showing you these access keys. Okay. Clear my screen. I'll go ahead and go back to sharing my screen now. There we go. I have both of those profiles added. Dalton said, what are you doing today? We are doing some AWS pen testing, or I should say learning it. I am not an AWS pen tester. This is all pretty new to me as well. So you guys just get to watch me stumble through it. Hopefully my methodology and my learning helps you understand what is going on. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is list our S3 buckets. And like I said, I always forget the syntax for these things, but that's where ChatGPT is helpful. Can you tell me how to list S3 buckets in the AWS CLI? Okay, and then we'll pass it our profile of McDuck. So let's try that real quick. So it's AWS S3 LS profile McDuck. Like that. Was that his name? McDuck, right? Yeah, McDuck. Okay, so here's our different S3 buckets that we have access to. And a few things I notice. We have some other Sandbox stuff in here. We have some CloudGoat stuff here, if you guys can see that. Some code pipeline type stuff, public policy test, a bunch of test stuff, delete this bucket stuff, cognito stuff. There must be other CloudGoat scenarios by other people in the Sandbox. But the one that we are looking for would be the RCE web app one, which I see two right here. So we have these logs with the RCE web app, and we have the secret. The secret one seems most appealing to me. So then let's ask our ChatGPT friend. Okay, now how do I list contents of a specific bucket? Gosh, I can't type. Looking over at the chat, Hazard Patty said, what's the biggest GPU instance an EC2 cost per hour? Looking to hack me, I have no idea. Said, I was messing with ChatGPT a while back. I asked it to write a 68K assembly program that drew a 10 by 10 pixel green square on my Amiga 1200, and it worked. That's amazing, dude. ChatGPT is going to change the game. Okay, so here's our code, and actually what I'm going to do, I like to do this just for syntax. We're going to open up Mousepad right up here, and I'm going to save all my syntax here. Just one so I can see it, but also for my notes later on when I drop this into my notes for my own learning. Let's first enumerate this bucket right here. So we'll copy that, and we'll just drop that in here. The command looks good to me, so we'll copy it and paste it here. An error occurred. Access denied. Okay, so I do not have access to that specific bucket. So let's go ahead and try the logs one then. So we'll just change this out to that, copy that, paste. What up, J Money? Good to have you here, my friend. The specified bucket does not exist. Did I do a typo? CG logs S3 bucket RCE web app. Oh, add an extra G on the end. I see. I see what I did. There we go. Now let's try it. Access denied. Okay, interesting. So I cannot access either of those. So is there a different bucket that I should be looking at? CloudTrail template key store. Oh, key store? That looks promising, right? Let's check that out. One of these days, guys, I'll load up Paku, which is a tool developed by Rhino that's kind of like a Metasploit for the cloud. And we'll go through one of these scenarios using that because it will actually automate and make these commands a lot easier. The reason I'm doing it manually is I want to learn it the manual way before I do it the more automated way. As I said before, I'm new to this myself, so you guys are watching me as I learn it. Let's try that. Okay. So it appears we have an SSH key, right? Let's see if we can. Is that another folder, I take it? Or is that the actual key? I think another folder. What did ChatGPT say? Let me grab my browser. If you want to list a content-specific folder within the bucket, add the folder name to the end of the S3 bucket path. So I don't know if that's a folder or not, but I think if it was a folder, we could look at it this way. Like that. No, so that must be the actual key, I would take it. How do I pull down a file? Did he tell me that? You can also use human readable option, display file sizes, command will. Okay. Now, how do I download? J Money said, what'd you type in Chat GPT to get all those instructions? You can see them right here. You can watch me as I do it. So open your terminal. We did that. Download a file. Use AWS S3 CP. So copy. And bucket name, path the file, and then where we want to copy it to. I see. Easy enough. Let's go ahead and make a directory, and we'll just call this RCE web app. Did I create it? Oh, there we go. Okay, RCE web app, and then pull this down. So our bucket name is this guy right here. Oh, that's the bucket path, so we can just copy this whole thing because we want to pull down, I believe this CloudGoat thing, I think it might be SSH key. And local path the file, so where do we want to save it to? We'll save it to home. Well, can I just do this since I'm in the folder I want to save it to? I wonder if that'll work. And then we got to specify our profile. Profile McDuck. J Money said you uploading to YouTube today. Yep, I'll probably get this uploaded to YouTube today. You got it. Drink of water. Max Source said I entered a few minutes ago. Didn't you already finish this CloudGoat thing lab? No, I haven't done this one yet. You might be thinking of the Cloud Breach S3 one where we got credit card data, which I think is similar to this one. That might be what you're thinking about. I think that one was called Cloud Breach S3, if I remember right. I can even check. 1 second. Now you have me curious if I'm repeating my work. Here, we can all look at my YouTube channel together. Let's see which ones I've done. I don't think I've done this one, though. So I've done vulnerable Lambda, IAM Prevesc, Lambda Prevesc, IAM Prevesc by attachment, and Cloud Breach S3. Yeah, so I think that's the one you're thinking about, Max Thor, is the Cloud Breach S3, where we enumerate an S3 bucket, I believe, and we got like credit card data. This one, we're actually going to compromise a database. So yeah, if you guys want to see the series, I have it on my YouTube page. It's called AWS Pen Testing. And as I do each one of these, I release a new video on them. So yeah, there's a bunch of scenarios that we can work through. Oh, I was right. So it is an SSH key for cloudgoat.pub. So if I change mod 400, CloudGoat like that, that should work. And then we need to connect to the EC2 instance. Which did it provide me? I wonder if it provided me with that information. I didn't save it. But we should be able to enumerate what EC2 instances are available. I think when I created this scenario, though, it probably told me what the IP was. Let's see. Well, maybe not. Maybe it just gave me the users. Oh, it says it access the S3 bucket with an SSH key? What do you mean? Access. Oh, we did that. We did that. List EC. Okay, so we do need a list EC2 instances. So I was right about that. We can just list them. So once again, let's go back to handy dandy ChatGPT. How do I list EC2 instances in AWS CLI? And remember, EC2 instances are just a fancy word that Amazon uses for virtual machines. That's all they are, is virtual machines. So AWS EC2 describe instances. Beautiful. Easy enough. Let's save that to my notes here. And we'll do profile McDuck. Boom. And go back to our terminal and try that. Hazard Patty said, clicking that sub button. Appreciate it. Thank you, my friend. And yeah, if you follow me here on Twitch, usually I stream on Twitch on Wednesday nights and then randomly surprise streams like now. But my main thing is my YouTube page where I post all my streams and interviews I do with people. Hopefully you find some of the content helpful. So what this is doing now, when we describe EC2 instances, remember these are virtual machines. So it's giving us information about each virtual machine that is running. I see this right here, a key name for this virtual machine, CG EC2 key pair RCE web app, that I wonder if that's the one that we are going to eventually connect to. We can kind of enter through here, see if there's anything else that looks interesting to us. We have some IAM instance profiles for the RCE web app. We have our public IP address. This is the spot that you guys shouldn't be able to connect to these public IPs, so it should have my public IP whitelisted. If you do connect to it, I guess you can finish the scenario before I tear it down. Ubuntu, RCE web app. Okay, that looks like the one that we might want. Is that just the tags there? Okay, so that's the end. So if I scroll up here, we have this Ubuntu web app. Where's the IP for this? Is that, come on, scroll. I think it would be this guy right here. Right? Description, group name, RCE web app, RCE web app. We have a few here, so let's just go like, I'm going to copy a few of these just in case we need one of them. So we have this. We have this one right here. I don't know if I won't need the private IP address, I don't think. So we'll just copy that and we'll drop it into our notes. There, I wonder if I make this bigger. Will it look nicer? Okay, it does look nicer. Beautiful. And I believe there's a few other VMs up here. We have this SSH RCE web app. Hold up. So that's that one. So that's the description for this one above. So we have another public IP address here. Let's copy that one. Pull up our notes. Oh, come on. Those are different, right? Oh, no, those are the same. Maybe that's just the machine that we need to connect to. I bet it is. Yeah, it's all the same IP. Okay. Whoops. So we have our SSH key, and now we should be able to just specify that and connect to this public IP. And the syntax for that, if my memory serves me correct, is SSH. Then we have to do -I and then specify it. But one thing I didn't explain when I was doing it, in order to use a private SSH key, you need to set the appropriate permissions. So you saw me do this to set the appropriate permissions. Otherwise, it'll actually throw an error and you won't be able to use it. I realized I didn't explain why I did that when I first grabbed the key, so apologies for that. But SSH-I to specify a key. I don't know if the I is like initialization, something like what it actually stands for. We should be able to specify the key like that, and I think it would be CloudGoat or Ubuntu? Maybe it's just Ubuntu. Hey, okay, we have connection to it. So we have not stolen, I mean, we found the SSH key in the S3 bucket. We took the SSH key down to our attack machine. We set the appropriate permissions on the SSH key, and now we have access to a web server. So we have remote command execution essentially on this web server. We have an app stuff here. So there's an RDS database. That's kind of the end goal. So we use our SSH key to access the web app's EC2, use EC2 shell to list S3 buckets. Do we have AWS installed on here? We do not. So I think that is the correct command to install it. Sudo apt install AWS CLI. So we dropped onto this machine, but we do not have the AWS CLI installed. So we need to pull that down so then we can use CLI now that we're on this virtual machine to do a little more enumeration on the AWS environment and see if we can get access to this database. What's the end goal? Is it just access or to find something? Find a secret. So our end goal is to find a secret stored in the RDS database. And remember, ChatGPT told us RDS databases are just hosted databases by Amazon. They could be SQL, PostgreSQL, they could be Amazon Aurora, they could be a few different types of databases. It just means it's hosted by Amazon. Slowly loading. And because we're on a VM in the AWS environment, I don't think we should have to specify a profile because we don't have a profile loaded. We should be able to just list it directly on this machine since it's an EC2 instance itself. But let's find out. Grab a drink. Okay, now we can list our S3 buckets, if you guys remember right, just with this command. So let's see if it works. So now we can probably access those other buckets. So we have the secret right here. We have logger here. We have key store. Key store is where we found our SSH key at. Let's first try this secret bucket right here. So if we go here, I'm going to type this out just for my own muscle memory so I remember these commands. It's AWS S3 ls S3 like that. And I think that is how we would list that specific bucket. So let's see if we have access to it, shall we? We do now, and we have a database.txt. Isn't that interesting? So now we can do a very similar command that we did before, which is this one right here. So if we do AWS S3 CP S3 like that. Oh, apparently I need to recopy this. Database.txt, and we can just save it to temp, right? That would work. Well, I wonder if we can just save it to our current directory. I don't know where I'm at, but let's try it. Let's see if we have right permissions right here, and we'll just save it right to where we're at. Okay, dear Thomas, for the last time, here are the database creds. Save them to your password manager and delete this file when you've done so. This is definitely in breach of our security policies. Come on, Thomas, step your game up. All right, we have some creds here. Database name CloudGoat, username cgadmin, and password purplepony2029. So let's go ahead and grab these. Whoops, let's get the full thing in there. And let's save it to our notes. Beautiful. One second, checking one thing over here. Okay, so here's what we have. We have database creds, all this stuff. Now we just need to know how do we connect to that specific database. If I do like Service status all. What do we have running on here? So I'm going to ask ChatGPT, is there a CLI command to connect to an RDS database in AWS? So to generate authentication token, so we have, it's either MySQL or PostgreSQL. Let's just try that. Let's try like PostgreSQL first. What is the syntax? PostgreSQL in command line on Ubuntu. What if I do netstat, if that'll tell me what ports are listening? I wonder where the database is at. Is it on another EC2 instance? It must be, right? I would think. Can we enumerate databases? Let's check that real quick. How do I enumerate RDS databases from the AWS CLI? Hey, okay, this is what I'm looking for. This command returns a list of identifiers for all the RDS instances in your AWS account. You can modify query to return additional information, such as their engine type, status, or endpoint. For example, return the endpoint. Okay, let's just copy that. Let's see what happens. Because it must be on that other, I saw there was 2 EC2s this created. The database must be on that other EC2. Oh, okay. Region US East 1. I think that's the right syntax. Okay. So that is the database there, it would appear, if I'm understanding this correctly. Okay, got it. So ChatGPT, he said I could query to return additional information such as our engine type, status, or endpoint. For example, return the endpoint. Okay, how do I... Yes, you're right. Good job assuming that. So instance identifier, your instance identifier, query with the end. Okay, got it. Got it. So let's grab this command, and we need our instance identifier, which we just got right here. I'm assuming that's what this is. Well, that's the endpoint. I don't know if that'll be the instance identifier or not. Let's find out. We'll see if it breaks. Must specify a region US East 1. What up, Mohammed? Good to have you here, my friend. An error occurred. Invalid database identifier. Okay, so that is not, so that's the endpoint. So let's just drop that here. So we'll say endpoint, and that's, oh, we don't need that whole thing. The endpoint is this, just so I have it saved. I wonder if the identifier is just if we take this last part off, like that, if that would be the identifier, the first part of the endpoint. Oh, come on. Region US East 1. There. Okay. Database T2 micro, but what language? How do I connect to it? Okay, we know the endpoint. We could just try PostgreSQL first. That might be one way to do it. Let me pull up ChatGPT. Did he tell us how to connect PostgreSQL? Didn't I ask him that? Yeah, okay. So let's copy that code, And let's pull it up in our notes here. We'll just put it by our database. So our host, I think, would be this guy right here, this endpoint. And our user is going to be cgadmin. And our database is going to be CloudGoat. It must prompt for the password, it would appear. There we go. Looks okay to me. Let's hit enter. Okay, we got prompted for the password. I'm going to take that as a good sign. Our password is purplepony2029. Same password I use. Oh, we got connected. Okay. So is it the same as SQL? Like, can I do show databases? Show tables? Okay. PostgreSQL, I need to figure out the syntax. What is the syntax in pSQL to show tables? Oh, okay. Okay, so we have sensitive information. Beautiful. Let's go back to this. This command show all tables in the scheme. Note that both of these commands should be entered in the pSQL command prompt after connecting. Okay, got it. How do I list all the information in a specific table? Oh, so then that part's still the same as SQL. Okay, so can we do select everything from sensitive information? Look at that, guys. We completed the scenario, at least in the McDuck way. We have super secret passcode here, and then there's our value. That was our goal. Let's go ahead and grab this, and we'll copy there. And we win. And I'll drop the super secret passcode here. I think that was the end goal, right? So if we go back to our README here, find a secret stored in the RDS database. We did it. So the other path, I just want to look at this. So if we start as LoRa, similar thing, list S3 buckets, access S3 bucket with ELB logs, find secret admin URL and ELB logs, visit secret admin URL, and then exploit RCE at secret admin URL to gain shell access. I'm looking over at the time. Guys, let's run through this one as well. I think we have time to do it before I have any meetings. So we finish it as McDuck. Let's do the scenario as Laura and see what we can learn from doing it her way. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and I'll be back in 5 minutes, and we'll dive back into this and see what more we can learn. I will be right back.